a couple of years ago, I was at a falls prevention conference, and there was a speaker, Lavinia Plonka, that told us about Feldenkrais and did a presentation, and it was so interesting. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole Googling and learning more, and I thought we should really have her come to Gibbons Estates. And then the pandemic happened. And so once things started to open back up, a resident came by my office and said, you should really have something on Feldenkrais. I said, okay, Barb, you're right. So I reached out to Lavinia, and she's here today to explore the concept with you and teach you a little bit, and I hope that you enjoy it.
So you're all ready to learn how to fall, right? So I'm not here to teach you how to fall, although I was thinking about it when I was putting this together, and I thought, well, actually, we've all fallen thousands of times in our lives, if you think about it. I've fallen in love, fallen behind, fallen apart, fallen out with someone, all of these different ways that we fall. And actually, there's over 79 definitions of falling in the Webster's Dictionary, and almost all of them are negative except for the falling in love part, which of course sometimes is not positive either. But the idea that falling has to do with irreversibility is why we use that term with so many things. I'm so far behind in my work, I'll never catch up. I've fallen so deeply in love. Each thing is this experience of giving it up. And when we end up with a change in our relationship to gravity, which is the way I like to put the actual word falling, it feels irreversible. So I want to clarify a couple of things, because Erin said two different things. One, she talked about the art of falling and getting up. And I'll give you a little bit of my background, first of all, because I actually, in my first career, made a living literally falling on my face. I was a clown and a mime. And so pratfalls were a big part of my life. And I learned how to fall and get up many, many times. And that was only one of the reasons that I was attracted to the Feldenkrais method. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, and then we're going to come back to why it's important to explore this relationship that we all have with irreversibility, for lack of a better word. So Moshe Feldenkrais developed the Feldenkrais method, and he was a martial artist, and he actually was one of the people responsible for bringing judo and then all of the other Eastern martial arts to the West back in the 1930s. And I don't know how many people here are familiar with judo. A little bit. You've seen it, maybe. There's a lot of falling that goes on in judo practice and a lot of other martial arts. And he had actually injured himself so badly that he was told he would never walk again. He was also an engineer. And he was like, well, wait a minute, maybe there's another way that I can learn how to walk so that I can use myself and continue to live a full life. So he applied his engineering and curiosity skills to his martial arts skills and developed a method that has actually helped many, many thousands of people around the world at this point. The interesting thing is that it's such a long training that there are not that many Feldenkrais practitioners in the United States. I'm one of them. And I've been doing it now for about 30 years. So along the way in my life as a Feldenkrais teacher, I got older. I don't know how that happens. And I remember the very first time that I gave a presentation on falling. It was back, I don't remember even what it's called now, at Ollie, but it used to be called the College for Seniors. And it was about 15 years ago. And I remember getting up there to give my talk to all of these people. And I'm talking about how wonderful it is to learn how to fall and get back up and to do all of these movements. And I'm demonstrating them all. And I said, anybody have any questions? And this woman raises her hand and she said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 55. And she said, wait, until you're 85. And I've always thought of that. So here I am now, 15 years later. I'm 70 and I'm still falling and getting up, and I'm still banging the drum of how important it is to be able to have resources and strategies. It's not like you want to learn how to fall, but you want to learn how to be able to use yourself so that in a moment of falling, you have some options. Because most of the time, in the moment of a fall, you don't feel like you have options. And many of the times, the choices that we make when we're falling are the exact choices that cause damage. One of the first things that happens with a lot of people when they start to fall is, anybody got an idea? What happens? What? You put out your hands. Depending if you're falling forward, if you're falling backwards, putting out your hands is not going to help you at all. Guaranteed. But what happens actually, even when you're putting out your hands, is something called the startle reflex. Right? You trip over something and your whole body goes into one of the only instinctual movements the human being has, is the startle reflex. And the first part of the startle reflex is, right? And then the second part of the startle reflex is curling up. Neither one of these really help you on your way down. In fact, when you go into startle reflex and you tense, you're actually putting yourself more in jeopardy than if you just let go and allowed yourself to fall. A little side note, that's why people who've had a little bit too much to drink very seldom get hurt when they fall. It's because, now this is true, they're relaxed. But what happens is we tense because we're like, oh my gosh, I'm going down, right? So learning how to be able to be present to relaxation in a moment of falling is really important. Another thing that happens with a lot of people is that they're already afraid of falling. Did you know that fear of falling is the greatest statistical cause of falling in older adults? Just being afraid of falling makes you fall. And there's a number of different reasons besides the quote-unquote psychological aspect of it. One of the reasons is, I just lost my train of thought. So because what happens is we unconsciously are already bracing. And a lot of people, when they're bracing, actually widen their stance like this and start to walk like this. And what that does is it actually puts you off balance. Exactly the thing that you want puts you off balance. So this wider stance that many people take to protect themselves is one of the things that actually causes people to fall, because you're walking across the lawn and you trip on something, you don't have your legs underneath you. You're already off balance. So these kind of things affect us so that the fear of falling and then the choices that people make in order to protect themselves from falling create a situation that leads us to falling. So what I'd like to do today is offer you an introduction to some resources that you could use, very simple ones, that are based on the Feldenkrais Method, come from the Feldenkrais Method ideas, but that you can use in a chair and standing. Normally, when a person goes to a Feldenkrais class, we do a lot of the lessons actually lying down on the floor. And, it takes sometimes practice and learning before you can even get to the point where you're doing things on the floor, which is one of the reasons that we're all in chairs today. But when we do Feldenkrais lessons in chairs, we're still using the same principles. And one of the things that's really interesting for me about the Feldenkrais method is, first of all, he called his group classes awareness through movement. Not awareness of movement, but awareness through movement. So you're using movement to develop a heightened awareness of how you are, how you do things, how you use yourself. And that process of increasing awareness is what allows you to be able to relate to your environment in a more functional fashion, which is what we want to be, right? We want to be more functional in our lives. And so there's a number of different qualities that you can develop right here today that can help you with your ability to be able to be more resilient. What I would like to do today is, instead of teaching you how to fall, I would like to offer you a series of things that I think are really important for being able to develop this ability to navigate through space with less anxiety, with less tension, and with less damage. Does that sound like a potentially good idea? Great. Great, because I didn't have any other plan B, so we're gonna have to go with that. So there are several different things that I think are really important that a lot of times people don't even think about. And the first one that I want to address is vision. And I'm sure that you've gone to tons of different presentations where they've talked about improving your vision, improving the lighting in a room, which is really important, making sure that the surfaces are all safe so that you are taken care of and you don't trip over anything. But a lot of times we think that by the time we get to a certain age, that our vision is hopeless and that we're not going to be able to improve our vision. And yet there are definitely ways that you can do it. And I just want to do a few today to give you an idea of how your vision can support your ability to be able to navigate in space. So what happens when I go into startle reflex, to go back to the startle reflex? I don't know if you happen to see my eyes, but they got very tense. When our eyes are tense, they influence our ability to respond with the rest of the body. Just from a physiological perspective, your eyes have these pairs of muscles that move your eyes up and down, side to side. You can try all this while I'm doing it, and diagonally, right? We also have our lenses that allow us to look out into the distance and bring something in close, right? So we've got all of these physiological functions of our eyes. But what's really interesting is those eye muscles connect up to your neck muscles. And we're going to be looking at that a little bit more in a minute. And then also, your eyes are what take in information. And again, this sounds very obvious, right? My eyes take in the light, it transfers, and it goes to the brain. And it's the brain that tells you, look out, there's a crack on the sidewalk. Watch out for that car, right? It's the brain that's taking that information in. So if you can relax your eyes and allow your eyes to start to move a little bit more independently of the neck and the muscles, then you're going to be able to improve your posture as well as your response to certain situations. I said posture. What does posture have to do with balance and being able to protect yourself, right? So again, we go back to this stance, but any stance that you have, if you have a rounded posture, for example, you're in a battle with gravity already, because our heads weigh 15 to 18 pounds, right? So if it's a little forward, if it's a little sideways, I'm going to lose that battle with gravity at one point or another. And my eyes help me orient to the world. So you want to try a couple of little eye things and see what happens? Now, those of you who are wearing glasses for this first one, you're going to want to take them off. You don't have to see anything. In fact, you're not going to see anything. And what I'd like everybody to do, just get comfortable in your seat. Find a way to get really comfortable. And you're literally going to take first one palm. I'll demonstrate it as best as I can with one mic in my hand. You're going to take one palm and put it on the heel of your hand on your cheekbone. Cup your palm. Don't do it yet because then you won't be able to see me. Cup your palm over your eye, and your fingers are on your forehead. And then once you have that, you're going to do exactly the same thing with your left hand so that your fingers cross over your forehead. And once you have your eyes closed, I promise I won't do anything crazy, so you're not going to miss anything. So go ahead, everybody just cover your eyes and close your eyes. So you're literally on both eyes. You're not going to see anything. So can you cover both of your eyes? One hand on one eye and one hand on the other eye. And just stay there for a moment with your eyes closed, looking into the blackness in front of you. And try not to squeeze your eyes. Just let your eyes relax. Notice your breath. And this is a very old technique that actually came from the Bates method that Moshe Feldenkrais adapted, and it's called palming. And this palming process allows your eyes to begin to rest in your head. Now, you may notice with your eyes closed, keep them closed, don't worry, I'll let you know when you can stop. You may notice that with your eyes closed and your hands in front of you, that you might still be seeing something. You might be seeing sparks or different colors. So just notice what it is that you're seeing. And now you're going to keep your eyes closed, but put your hands down. Keep your eyes closed. This is very important for this exercise. And then with your eyes closed, can you begin moving your eyes slowly to the right, as if your eyes could look into your head and see your right ear, and then slowly move them back. And just notice as you're moving your eyes, whether you feel anything in the back of your neck, whether you feel any jumpiness in your eyes. How do you know when your eyes have come back? What tells you that your eyes are back in the middle of your head? We call this having a proprioceptive skill to know where my eyes are. And then pause a moment, keep your eyes closed, and with your eyes closed, just see if after having moved your right eye to the right, if there's a different feeling, a different sensation in the right eye comparing to the left eye. And then try moving your eyes to the left. And just, does it move differently to this side? A lot of times if we have an injury or tension or even a habit, we'll find that on one direction it moves more easily than in the other direction. Notice if it goes more easily here. And now, can you move both eyes left and right as fast as possible? Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And then put your hands back over your eyes like you did. And notice the blackness. Has it changed? Does it look the same as it did before? And could you pick the blackest spot there is? And imagine that that black spot is like a blot of ink on a blotter. And just imagine that black spreading all the way across your eyes. And then slowly take your hands back down. And slowly open your eyes. Slowly. And just notice what it feels like right now. Maybe you can kind of gaze around the room and just notice if you sense any differences in just how you're using your eyes at this point. So did anything come up for anybody as you were doing that? Yes. Do we have somebody with a microphone? All the way over here, Jason.
Are you talking about the whole exercise or just the last part when you open your eyes?
Whatever. Yeah, the whole exercise or whatever came up at the end.
I found my eyes went much faster and farther to the right than to the left.
Okay.
They were closed. And then at the end, when I took my hands away, there was more blue light instead of blackness. The first time.
How many people experienced a change in color? Right. Great. So that was your brain. That's your visual cortex, right? Your visual cortex is constantly taking in information, processing it, telling it that's a chair, That's my friend Mary. That's your brain and your visual cortex at work. So then when you take it away, the visual cortex is like, what do I do? What do I do? And it starts shooting all those lights and it gives you all those different colors. And as your brain calms down, your eyes calm down. Did anyone feel the difference between going right and left? Yeah, good. So just having that, just knowing that, wow, I see things better to the right than I do to the left, can influence my relationship to objects and things in my way that could affect my balance. And by using different eye exercises, and by the way, there are probably hundreds of these eye exercises developed by different people and taught by Moshe Feldenkrais, that just doing these kind of eye exercises can help your whole self, because it would influence your posture as well. I'm not going to spend the whole day on the eyes. We're going to go to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is flexibility. And we want to be flexible not just in the body, but in the mind. And what's really interesting about the way Feldenkrais taught his ideas was he always used to say, you know what, it's not flexible bodies I'm after, it's flexible brains. And how you move is also how you think and how you feel. We're always doing it all at once, right? We're thinking, feeling, sensing, moving, all at the same time. We don't compartmentalize it in our lives, but we often don't notice it all happening at the same time. So when I'm able to increase my flexibility, I'm more able to work with a situation that is unexpected. So if I'm stiff and I encounter an object, I have less options than when I know that I have parts of myself that can move. So I just want to give you a few different things that you can do in your chair that maybe you hadn't thought about that could increase flexibility. And so what I'd like to invite everybody to do, and I'm going to hop up on the stage to demonstrate so that you can all see, is to just come a little bit forward in your chairs. By the way, those of you who took your glasses off, if you don't need them, you can leave them off, but if you need to see me, you can put them back on. So come forward and let your legs be comfortably apart. And all I would like to invite you to do right now is just begin to caress down your right leg, as if you would just wanted to sit. You're not trying to reach or anything. It's as if you're trying to get to know your leg, right? Just caress down and come on back up a few times. Just feel that movement, caressing down and coming up. And just notice, how do you bend? How far do you go easily? What do you do with your head, with your neck? Are you breathing? I know this all sounds so obvious, and yet, there's many choices, for example, and some people are making some of these choices already, and other people are making other choices. What happens if you lower your head as you're reaching down? As if you wanted to look at your toes as you were reaching down. Some of you are already doing that. Does that change the shape of your back? Does that allow you to go further? And then try reaching down, looking upward, as if you wanted to look at me. You see how it changes the shape of your back and what you do? Now, try it with your left arm on the outside of your left leg. Is it different? Or is it exactly the same? Sometimes it's hard to sense the differences in the beginning, so I'm going to add things and we'll start to see if we can build it. So now, can you take your right hand, the palm of your right hand, and start caressing down the inside of your right leg? How do you do that? So there's as many different ways to do it as there are people in this room. I can see that. So if you're looking down at your foot, that's one way to do it. What would happen if you turned to look over your left shoulder as you did it? What happens to your chest, to your shoulders, your other left shoulder? Some of you are looking over your right, which is a very complicated way of doing it. Do you see what happens to your chest, to your shoulder girdle as you do that? Great. Now try the left side doing the same thing. So going down And there's probably another dozen, Feldenkrais used to say there's got to be at least 3 different ways to do something. So you've got the straight way of going down, you've got the rotating way of going down. Can somebody think of a third way of going down the inside of your leg? Okay, so I could do it this way, right? And that would tip me right out of the chair in a way, right? But there are many different ways that you can do that. So just pause a second and feel, and when you're sitting, whether that's changed how you're sitting a little bit. And now I'd like to invite you to do something else. This is all working with the idea of flexibility. So if you were to, let's see if I can do this in profile. If you were to slump, just let yourself, we're all good at that, right? Slump, I'm at my computer. This is how I spend my life, right? So if I allow myself to slump right now, and then let your head literally go down as if you wanted to contemplate your navel, and notice your breathing. Believe it or not, this is a useful position for certain things. Probably not the things you thought of. I'll tell you in a minute. And now, can you uncurl yourself? And as you uncurl yourself, can you push your stomach out? Literally, push your stomach out. And if you want to, you can look up. We're going to add to that in a minute. So one of the things that people don't realize is that we're not trying to always hold in our stomachs to balance ourselves for flexibility. Your core muscles need to work in relationship with each other. So when you're doing a crunch, you're kind of pulling it in, but when we're going this way, you want your back muscles to get stronger, and they're connected to your stomach muscles. So now we're going to add something. I would like everybody, I don't know if I can do this, I'm going to demonstrate it and then I'll talk because I can't do both at the same time. Sure. I call this the home alone position. Put your hands on your cheeks, elbows together, as much as you can. And now, can you raise your elbows up to the ceiling without them coming apart? And come back. Now do it again, and this time stick out your stomach. Oh, so much easier, wasn't it? So what you just did was you engaged your extensor muscles in order to be able to do that movement. To stretch that out and come back. So now come back to sitting and just notice how you're sitting. Feeling what your back feels like right now. Now this next one, this was the challenge when I walked in and saw that the chairs had arms. So if you can do this with me, it would be great. What I'd like everyone to do is you're going to sort of side sit on your chair. And you don't have to fit because you're going to actually let one butt cheek hang off the chair. Feel free to hold on if you want to. And now, think about that butt cheek that's hanging off, dropping down a little bit. And then bring it back up. And drop it down. And bring it back up. So what's happening on the other side of you? As you're dropping one side down, what's happening to the other side? It goes up, but it doesn't leave the chair, does it? So it's actually your hip is moving a little towards your shoulder on that side, right? So on one side you're getting longer, and on the other side you're getting shorter, right? As we're going back and forth. Try it the other way. See if it's different. You may be surprised. So as your hip goes down, some of you may go, oh, wait a minute, this one doesn't want to go down at all. Or, whoa, this one really likes to go down, right? So you're moving your hips. So make sure that when you move your hips, now this is the trick. If you move your hip down, you don't want to move your head with it, right? That will take me to a fall. So you either hold on to your chair, or if you want to be really taking it a little bit further, take the hand that's facing the chair and put it on top of your head. And no, we're not going to do Simon Says. But as you drop your hip down, can you move your head in the opposite direction towards the back of your chair? And then when you pick up your hip, move your head the other way. So now you're including your whole skeleton in the movement as you do it, back and forth. By the way, are you breathing? Breathing is very, very important. Good, and then come on back to the front. So everything that you've done so far has actually been part of what we would involve if we were walking. You may not think that you did, but you did. The movement that you did of rounding and coming back, each time you take a step, there's a little tiny bit of rounding. Each time you push off, there's a little tiny bit of extension, right? We don't walk like that, unless we live in a certain neighborhood, but we do that tiny motion. And if I have lost it, I'm more liable to fall because I've lost that flexion and extension. The other movement that you did of just moving from side to side is another one of our planes of action when we're walking, so that hip is coming up and coming up. Again, I'm exaggerating, I don't walk like this normally, but these are all small movements that we do. There's one more that we're going to add in a little while, and that's the action of rotation, because our hips also move in this direction. You want to be able to have access to all three planes of action in order to be able to have the flexibility to be able to respond in a situation where your balance is off. That's why flexibility is so incredibly important, at least for me. The next thing I want to talk about, which may seem like a no-brainer, is the concept of balance. How do I improve my balance? And of course, balance involves your vision and your flexibility. And how do you put that together in order to be able to really use yourself and improve yourself? So for this next one, I'm going to invite you to stand up. If you can't stand, you can do a modification of this, or you can imagine it. And as much as you can spread apart, because you're going to need room next to your, let's say, next to your right arm for starters. So everybody just take a big step to the right or the left to give yourself some space. Okay, and I'm going to jump up again because I can't see everybody. Okay, so now the first and important thing, look around you. Just look around. Turn, notice where you turn, what it feels like, how you shift, where you feel stable, where you feel unstable. What do you do with your eyes? Right? What do you do with your hips? What do you do with your feet? So let's check our peripheral vision first. I'm sure that you've had lots of presentations where they've talked about peripheral vision and what happens when we lose our peripheral vision. Yes? No? Right? Okay, so when the world starts closing in on you, you have less options. If you can't have a field of vision that allows you to see what's coming in from the side or where that car is, then you've put yourself in jeopardy. The more you can increase your peripheral vision, the better off you're going to be. And so, again, as I said, your eyes are connected to your neck and to your posture. So let's check our peripheral vision first before we do this exercise. I'd like to invite you, just bring your two fingers in front of your eyes. And then you're going to keep yourself focusing more or less in the front, but keep it a soft focus, and begin moving your fingers apart without your eyes moving, and see how long you can keep your fingers in your field of vision, and then just stop when they disappear. Just for yourself, they're going out to the side, and just stop when they disappear from your field of vision. You got a good sense of that? Good. Okay, now put your arms down. We'll come back to that in a minute. So now I'd like to invite you to extend your right arm out in front of you. I want you to imagine that your nose is connected to your fingers. Maybe with a stick or a string. No, it's not that long. That's not what I meant. She's sitting there going, what, my nose? So you're going to begin turning to your right, but you want to keep yourself kind of connected to your hand the whole way. And once you've gone as far as is comfortable, just come back. Okay, so you're just going to turn, keep it connected. Now you don't have to stare at your hand, and you don't have to kind of race in any way, but just go to the right and return a couple of times. Just feel how far you go easily, what you do as you're doing the movement. And then the next time that you're turned to your right, stay where you are, where you're turned. Take note of where you've turned. And if your arm is tired, you can put it down. If it's not, you can leave it up. Now, close your eyes and begin to move your eyes to the left. Make sure you keep breathing. To the left and back to the center. Some of you will notice again that your neck wants to move. Just keep your eyes there. And then pause and come back to the front. You can put your arm down for a moment. You can open your eyes. And now bring your arm back up. And turn to the right again. And notice how far did you go this time? How many of you went a little bit further? Would you like to go even further? Let's see what happens. So, bring your arm back up. Turn to the right as far as is easy. Or again, keep it easy. We always say less is more in this work. Now, leave yourself there. Either put your arm down or not, and you're only going to move your head to the left and to the right. Just your head. Don't move the rest of yourself. Look, some of you are already turning because you want to develop your awareness. So make sure you're still staying to the right and it's just your head. Can you differentiate your head? This is a unique skill that only humans have. Being able to move our head in one direction while our bodies are going in the other direction. You're all doing it so well. I'm going to ask you to add something. And as you move your head to the left, move your shoulders to the right. And as you move your head to the right, move your shoulders to the left. So you're switching back and forth. Back and forth. Can you look over your opposite shoulder? Put your arm down, it will be easier. Can you move your shoulders? So how many of you have no idea what I'm talking about? Come to the front. Face the front. Let's just face the front for a moment and just turn your head. And now turn your head and turn your body. This is everything going together, which is the way we normally turn to look behind ourselves. What we're doing now is we're interrupting our habit. So now come back to the front, and as you turn your head to the right, let your shoulders go to the left. It's kind of like you're being sneaky, and then switch to the other side, or you're being coy, right? You're kind of looking over your shoulder. Now see, can you speed that up and just be really free with it, and your head still wants to go opposite? Notice when you get discombobulated. That's your brain at work, right? Confusion is the best place for learning. Great, now pause. Extend your right arm back out to the front and turn to your right again and see how it feels now after moving your shoulders around in your head. Oh my God, how many people remember The Exorcist? Come on back, we've got one more. Let your arm rest for a moment. This time, you're going to go to your right again. You're not going to use your shoulders this time, so you can put your arm down if you want to. And once again, could you begin just turning your head? Just turning your head. But stay facing the right. Stay with your body turned to the right. And your head is just turning. Now, as you're turning your head, can you move your eyes in the opposite direction? Can you move your eyes in the opposite direction? You can do it with your eyes open. You can do it with your eyes closed. Are you breathing? What's your jaw doing? And now let everything go together. Let your head, your eyes, your shoulders, everything go together. Notice what a relief that is. And then once again, extend your right arm and turn. Where'd you go? And come back. Have a seat. So let's talk about that experience. So we've done a little bit about flexibility, and then we included, so this is flexibility as well, the ability, oh, I forgot something. Stand up, stand up. I forgot the most important part. Put your fingers in front of your eyes again. That was the whole point. And now see, no, you're not covering your eyes. You just have your fingers right in front of your eyes and just let them come apart and see what it's done. This crazy little exercise is done for your peripheral vision. Try not to look so pleased with yourselves. That was awesome. It's so wonderful to see that. All right, have a seat. Questions, comments at this point? Can I get that on the microphone, please?
Wow.
Jason's coming over with the microphone to you.
How does benign vertigo affect this exercise?
How does did you feel it when you were doing it? I heard the question. What did you feel?
Once or twice unsteady.
Once or twice unsteady.
Mostly I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm. So benign positional vertigo is tricky.
Yeah.
You never know what is going to affect it or not. I had somebody in my class yesterday who we were doing a lesson that was a lot more, eventually more adventurous, but it started out very slowly. And she was like, oh, this is really getting to my vertigo. And I said, well, just take it easy, don't push it. And then at a certain point, she decided she wanted to try the bigger movements, and it went away. So it's a mystery sometimes. I find actually that sometimes the slow movements trigger it more than the fast movements. And so when a person knows they have something like that, you want to just make sure you can sit down, you can rest, you imagine it, because I never know whether it's going to trigger it or not.
When I get a little bit affected, I stop and focus on something in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
That helps a lot.
That's an excellent strategy, for sure, for sure. The one thing that I think doesn't help is tensing up, because then it feels like everything is going to start spinning. So you just kind of have to wait. But that's a very good question. And I have found that some of the lessons that we do adjust it and others don't. Yes, here, I'll give you my mic so Jason doesn't have to run around.
One reason I stopped riding my bicycle was because when I was riding, especially in traffic, and had to look to see if traffic was coming, I tended to go that way. Would these exercises help that? Although I've given them a bicycle now.
You can get another one. Yes, very good answer, very good answer. So yes, because the more you have options and available to you, the better off you're going to be in a traffic situation. I'll just digress with a quick, short, funny story where I was teaching a course at UNCA, and we were talking about the importance of having peripheral vision and flexibility. And this young woman in the class started talking about how she had gone during spring break to New York City, and that it was just a terrifying experience, and that she just felt unsafe the whole time. And I said, well, could you show us how you walk through New York City? And she took her purse, and she clutched it, and she walked like this. And as she was walking, it was just wonderful. There was a young woman there who was from New York City, from the inner city, who just jumped up, walked over, and grabbed her purse. And the girl was just so shocked because she thought she was protecting herself. She thought she was pulling it all in. And instead, what she had done was closed off her world in such a way that she didn't see a potential threat. So then I asked this young woman, well, how do you walk through New York City? And she went, I walk like this. So she was taking in her environment all the time. And that's what we want to be able to learn how to do. And it doesn't feel safe if I don't have the stability and the balance. I'm walking and I don't feel balanced, and I look over there, it takes me off my balance. That's why these movements are so important, because they give us the flexibility to be able to keep our balance when we're thrown off. And if we were going to be doing the art of falling and getting up, you would always also have more resilience, more ability to be able to get up from where you landed instead of being smashed down to the floor. Any other comments or questions at this point? Because I have one more. You ready for one more principle? So we've got vision, flexibility, balance, and then the last one, which really is about getting up, is resilience. We want to be resilient. You know, Feldenkrais used to say that health is not being sick. Health is the ability to be able to recover from shock. We need to learn to be resilient. So he said that like 75 years ago, and recently, scientists have started to define health as resilience. Resilience being the ability to be able to adapt to difficult circumstances. And I can't think of anything more difficult than falling on my face. The difficulty of losing my balance and coming back to be able to recover is where resilience is. Now, when you think of resilience in yourself, what do you think about? What parts of yourself do you think about? When you think of, let me rephrase that. When you think of the parts that are not resilient, what do you think of? It's not a trick question. What are you afraid of when you fall? Your bones, exactly. We're afraid that our bones are not resilient enough. When children fall, and they fall all the time, they actually think it's kind of fun most of the time, because their bones are still resilient. And of course, they're a lot closer to the ground as well, so we've got to keep that in mind. But when we're up here, such a great distance away from the ground, and we have a sensation that we don't have resilience in our bones, we're going to go back to tensing and back to falling in a way that we can damage ourselves. So I kind of wanted to just give you one exercise that is just wonderful for helping us develop resilience in our bones. And you can do it actually with any part of yourself. But again, I would like to invite everybody to stand up. And step away from your chair a little bit. And give yourself a comfortable stance with your feet underneath your hips. And we'll practice this a little because it's kind of surprising if people have never done this before. You're just going to, and if you need your walker to hold on to, that's fine. And if anybody feels that they need something to hold on to, we'll figure it out. But it's very simple. You're just going to rise up the tiniest bit on your toes and then drop. Literally drop. And see if you can drop in such a way, so you don't want to go up high. If you go up too high, then it's a shock, and we're trying to avoid shock. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build the bone matter. So if you go down really quietly, you're not giving yourself that little bit of vibration. So you land just a little bit. It might feel as if your whole body is having a little bit of a shake. That was great, right? Boom. You can even give yourself a little sound. Boom, boom, boom. Believe it or not, the sound is also vibrating against your bones. So when we actually do this in class, we go boom, 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 boom. Go ahead, try it with me. Boom, 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 boom. Let your heels land. You don't have to go as fast as I am. You can, and sometimes we give it with a little rhythm. Boom, 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 boom. So this sounds really silly, but what are we doing? What you're doing is you're conducting the ground force through your bones. You know, your bones are filled with air spaces, and that vibration actually strengthens your bones. They've done studies on this for people with osteoarthritis. And they found that doing just this simple movement that we're doing now helps people with arthritis develop stronger bones. It sounds crazy, but we all want stronger bones. So it's not just strengthening the bones of your shins. That vibration, because your bones are conducting the vibration through your whole body, is giving that information to your entire skeleton. So let's bounce a little bit more. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Right, good. Yes. How fast can you go? Boom, 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 boom. Can you let your arms relax? A side effect is that you're in a better mood afterwards. You've got it all out of your system. So, it's true. Have a seat. They actually, conducting and having a relationship with the ground is so important because we think about gravity as pulling us down, but at the same time, there's something coming from the earth pushing us up, right? Those of you, I'm sure some of you here go to Tai Chi classes, right? I see some people nodding. So that principle is actually a physical principle. So when I'm doing this, I'm actually connecting with that. Did you get a shin splint? No. Oh, okay. I was worried there for a moment. So when we do this kind of work, we're giving our bones more possibilities. And we have lessons actually where we actually do it to all the parts of ourselves. We're lying on the floor and we're throwing all the parts of our body. But you can just do it just with your feet. Just a little side note, this has been shown, for example, children with high sensitivity disorder, when they're completely overwhelmed, it's recommended for them to just go, oh, we've always wondered why that is. We're discharging energy, but at the same time, we're connecting with the ground, just like a horse is connecting with the ground. It's very important to remember that I have this connection with the ground, and that can help build our resilience, along with all of the other exercises that you've had today. So at this point, I want to know if anybody has any questions about anything. Meaning of life. Yes. Here comes the mic.
I've enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. I have carpal tunnel, and I was watching YouTube. I can do that. Speaker. And he says that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about that? Could you enlighten me?
Well, so carpal tunnel is an inflammation of the ligament in your wrist here.
Yeah.
So when you're doing something like that, so it's interesting because again, we're dealing with resilience, right? You're kind of bringing those parts together. But that to me is more of an exercise. So, which is a wonderful exercise. But I wonder if you could play with movements that could also be more gentle, that could allow your hands to, and there's some exercises that we do for carpal tunnel that are very, how many people here have issues with their hands and wrists? Okay, looks like I'm gonna have to come back here for another. Because there are lots of things that you can do for your hands and your wrists to relieve them. But that, to me, sounds like a wonderful way of just connecting with the ligaments that move in the hand and also strengthening this connection here in your wrist. Yeah. Any other, all the way back there. We're gonna give Jason a workout today.
It's Joshua, by the way.
Oh, Joshua.
Do you recommend doing the toe lifting with or without shoes?
Recommending what without shoes?
When you go up on your toes, I do it.
We do it without shoes, But my feeling is you do with what works. Some people can't eat without shoes because of different things that are going on with their feet. And by the way, if there was anybody that had something, there's so many different things that happen to our feet as we age. So again, any of the things that we're doing, I would recommend that you do it within your comfort level, what feels safe, and what feels pleasurable. Because the whole idea is that if I'm not having fun, I'm not learning, right? So if you need to wear shoes, you can wear shoes. If you can do it with, socks, it's fine too. Yeah. Any other questions? Erin has a question.
So I do. Hey everybody. If we ask Lavinia to come back and teach a class where there's actually, where we don't do chairs, would everyone come? Everyone would come. So, but we can explore if there is more interest in.
Sure, and usually when I do a series for people who are new to this, we actually start with some chair lessons so that you start to develop resilience and flexibility and how to figure out how to get down to the floor. And then we do the floor. And then when we do the floor lessons, there's always support to get back up. So, I want it to be successful for everybody who's interested in this work. And, people come to my classes at all levels of mobility. And sometimes people end up imagining certain parts. Sometimes people do a section in a chair and a section lying down, depending on what's most comfortable for them. So it's all about, again, finding a way to make it work for you.
Okay. So if there's interest, that's something that we can explore.
Yeah, and if we do that, I would really be interested, like, for example, the question that she had about the hands.
Yeah.
I would be interested in what people want to improve, what their challenges are, so that I can tailor the lessons to that. Because, believe it or not, Feldenkrais developed over 1,000 lessons, and they're all 45 minutes each. And I've only given you an hour's worth of little bits, so you can only imagine the depth and the richness of this work. It's pretty amazing.
So Jean, this sounds like maybe something we could explore with the Life Enrichment Committee and just figure out where the interest lies and work on some scheduling.
That'd be great. I still have a couple more questions. I don't know if you want.
Mrs. Stone.
And also the lady in purple was first.
Yeah, Mrs. Stone.
Well, the sensation of falling, when you're not expecting it at all, is there any way to self-correct, or is there something you can say or do, or are you going to go down the floor? I mean, just getting there.
So a fall happens in 1/25th of a second. 1/25th of a second. Your brain can't do anything that fast. That's why you have to develop motor skills that kick in automatically for you, because you're going to go down. And if you try to stop it when you realize that you're already on your way down, sometimes I can stop it if I'm just like, oh, okay, and that is from the result of training so that you have the flexibility to be able to move. But once you're on your way down, the most important thing is to exhale. Exhale. And just let it crumble, because if you try to stop yourself with your hands and you're coming way down from 6 feet high or 5'6", you're going to break your wrists. If you fall the other way, you're going to break your hip. But if you just allow yourself to just soften and exhale, you'll minimize the damage. But try not to fall, at least until I come back. So the man behind you had a question. You're taken care of? Okay, good. Any other questions?
I was walking around Creekside, and of course I was meditating and looking at the beautiful sky and the trees and the rabbits and whatever. And I came across, I didn't realize this, but one of one of the cement was higher than the other. Well, guess what I did? Ooh, I went forward. But I did think, I don't want to fall on my wrist. So what I did, I fell on my whole arm. So I didn't think about it. But I did relax my breathing, which was a mistake.
And sometimes that 1/25th of a second feels like an eternity. So time stops and you are actually able to make a choice. So it is interesting, and don't ask me how that works. But I have fallen where I have felt like I have all the time in the world to get down. And I don't know why that happens. Sometimes it happens one way, sometimes it happens the other way. But yeah, but you want to have resources. We have one more question. This lady right here.
Show us a good way to get out.
Oh, that's a whole other workshop, but I can show you a few. How's that? A quick demo.
I learned about this when I was very pregnant, and I took this into, and I really paid attention because I couldn't get up.
So, no mic. I can't do it with mic. Here I am. Rule number 1, don't try to sit up like that. It's too difficult. You want to roll to your side.
Roll to your side.
Now you have options. If you have bad knees, you probably wouldn't do this. Okay? But you could put your hands on the floor, your butt up in the air. Many of us forget, again, the heaviness of the head, and we try to get up by picking up our head. So I'll leave you with this mantra: butt up, head down.